Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Indie Zone. My name is Kathy. We're looking at multiple documents which have just been released to the public by the city of Moscow. They are specifically hundreds of pages of documents from the Moscow Police Department investigatory files. I'd like to address now, this is document number 9. This is a contemporaneously written document by Officer Aaron Morris. It was written on November 14th, 2022. This is the day after the crimes and effectively day 2 of the investigation into the crimes at 1122 King Road. Why I wanted to bring this to your attention is to express my questions why it is that on top of all law enforcement that were in and out of that crime scene, 2 members of the prosecutorial team enter that residence. Speaking of Ashley Jennings and also William Thompson. Each time someone goes in and out of a crime scene, there's a potential for a disturbing of the crime scene, even unintentionally. There's a potential that someone's going to contaminate the crime scene, that sweat, that tears, that hair, that other DNA could be left behind. And so therefore, there's a general principle with crime scenes that you'll know, even if you have a rudimentary interest, that you want to protect the crime scene and only have those with an absolute need to be there go in because of those concerns, contamination by any additional parties that come in. We know here that by day 2, there were many individuals that were in and out of that crime scene. We know that Kathy Mabbitt, who was the coroner, entered the crime scene. We know that the first responders, Nunez, Officer Smith, Sergeant Gunderson, captain of the police department from Moscow Police, entered the crime scene. We know that from Officer Smith's report. We know that there were multiple members from the Idaho State Police, detectives, crime scene technicians. Now we're on to day 2, and we're finding out that on top of Sergeant Blacker, Detective Vargas, that the prosecuting attorneys went into the crime scene. And we're learning here that in the case of Mr. Thompson, he entered with Ms. Jennings at 11:30 and left at 11:53. Ms. Jennings, however, 7 minutes later went back in at 12 o'clock. And from what we can deduce in the next paragraph, everyone remained in the area until 14:21 hours. So there's a question, did Ms. Jennings actually, 7 minutes after she exited with Mr. Thompson at 11:53, go back in at 12 and stay there until 14:21? This is a possibility because we see here that Officer Morris's objective in creating this report was to take note of who came in and left the crime scene. And he documents who did while he was on duty. He remained on duty until he was relieved by Officer Rosinski at 1600 hours, and then he presumably left the crime scene. But in going back to the prosecutors going in on this day and however many other days that they may have entered, the question is, what value do they bring that they have to be physically inside the crime scene with the potential for contamination or disturbing the crime scene with every person who enters? I give my opinions here, and I understand that prosecutors will provide guidance to law enforcement that are investigating, but I don't understand why they need to actually be inside a crime scene, especially one like this where there were multiple victims and there were fluids, from what we understand, that was quite substantial within the property. In terms of maybe preparing for a prosecution down the line, couldn't they do that from the photographs that law enforcement and video that law enforcement would have taken to the crime scene and all of the other reports, and relying on all of the experts that might have produced expert reports at trial. If you have any comments, any thoughts, any questions, please leave them here. Until next time, this is Kathy. Thank you for joining us here today.